In today's video, we're going to discuss motivation. Why men or anybody just lacks motivation to get off their butts and do things. This is a lesson I've been learning recently, and I'm going to just start talking about it. And you're going to learn some amazing information as we go on. If you notice, I'm in a new studio. So, congrats to me on upgrading my studio space. Really, I just moved. As you can see, I got unfinished walls, but I like the aesthetic and I like the vibe better. So, welcome in today to the Revive podcast. Before I really get going of talking about motivation, where is this coming from? Why do I talk about motivation and men and specifically? Well, I've noticed I think it is a rare breed for men to be self motivated. I think it's easy if you are a motivated man to have your algorithm stacked with the five guys who seem to be doing something. Now, what is motivation? Is motivation what you see when someone's posting that they're running? Like I hate when you're going through those. Like I do running. Gotten into running, but I hate when I'm going through Instagram and all I see is like this guy's running that far, this guy's running that far, this guy's telling me how to run. This guy's a dad, wakes up at 3 in the morning, goes runs, 4 in the morning, runs, does weights, and then runs, and all those things. And then back of my head, I'm like, well, that's motivation. And then I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, well, it's not. And then I started running my own business, Revived, and AI stuff. And then I started looking at all those entrepreneurs, and all of them seem to be crushing it and doing things like $1 million in their first 5 years or 3 years. And it really made me start to wonder, what is motivation? Is the motivation what I'm seeing of these people accomplishing things? Is that the motivation? Or what gets you off your butt and out of the way of the TV or the self pleasures of the world and into doing what you're supposed to do? And that's what I want to talk about today is how you can motivate yourself to actually accomplish what you want to accomplish in life. The problem that you might be encountering with this is I don't know what I want to accomplish in life. And you might have dreams of what you want to accomplish, but they seem unachievable. How do you even do there? How do you get to overcome just that great barrier to entry to your dreams? Don't get me wrong, it's great when we look at and we see people and their success stories of guys who started companies and now like making multi-million dollars a year, but they sacrificed a lot to get there. It's great when you see people running marathons, ultras, and everything, triathlons, and everything in between, but they trained a lot to get there. And so part of what I'm going to say is like, how do you get through life and get to that spot where you have accomplished something that you wanted to always do? So I come at this from a couple things that I did so far in my life. So I wrote a book, Reviving Fatherhood, Guiding Every Dad from First Steps to Lasting Legacy. It's hit Amazon bestseller, and there's a lot of copies out there. Go get yourself one. It's on the website or Amazon or honestly wherever you buy a book. So I did that, and that was my first taste of what can happen when you motivate yourself. But where did the motivation come from? And that's what I want to kind of dive into today. As you know, faith-based podcast here, and so therefore the reason what we're going to talk about today is really based in faith of how can men of faith be motivated to accomplish stuff with their life. There's too many men who go through the world, as I talked about, who have these dreams, hopes, and aspirations, especially Christian men, but they are the most lazy, stuck in their ways men that you'll ever meet. They just watch TV, they binge Netflix, or they just don't do anything besides they wake up, go work their 9 to 5, and go home. Is there anything necessarily wrong with that? No, but I think you're leaving a lot on the table. Why? Because I think life is an adventure to be lived every single day. I'm not saying you need to go out and kayak and hike and do all the different things, sign up kids for all these different sports and experience them for yourself. I'm just talking about life is more than just like wake up, go to work, come home, play with the kids, put them to sleep, hang out with your wife, go to bed and repeat. That's a boring life. God didn't create us to just live subpar, boring lives. If you go and study just humanity and like, I love looking at history. And one of my favorite things is to look at like ancient people and ancient men and what they accomplished without the technology that we have today. And it by far blows me away many, many times. The reason why is because they didn't have the tools that we have, yet they've accomplished incredible things. I think about the Vikings and how they were able to just be known for their rigorous training and conquering like Romans conquered people too, and just extremely fit and like just many, many things going on. And these people, if you look at history, weren't the people who just got up every day and just did the same old thing. Yes, routines are important. And so there were routines that helped them accomplish their day or accomplish what they're going for, but they didn't just wake up and just pass by through life. Granted, a ton of them probably did, but the ones that we know, or the ones who made history, are the ones who didn't. And those are the ones who are willing to lean into their full potential as a human. And honestly, death is an answer. Like, it's a possibility. You'll never be known for something great if you're just sitting on your butt all day. You'll never be known for something great if you don't do something more than just what the average is. It's like if you want to sit out and write a book. So let's go back to my book writing analogy. If you want to sit down and write a book, you don't wake up every day, go to work and come home and not write the book. You find time to wake up early, work on the book. At your lunch, sit down, type on your phone and write the book. Talk to your phone about the book. Everything about the book. It took me 2 years to write the book and publish it and everything like that. But what I learned through that process was the motivation came all the way deep down from understanding who I was and what I'm supposed to do. Oh, wow, isn't that great that I figured out what to do with my life and how to do it? And there's so many people who are probably like, well, how do I do that? Well, stop living an average life. If you live an average life, you will never think outside the box of what you're supposed to do with your life. Think about your passions, think about your goals. I think too many times, often too, in Christian circles, we say you need to have money, you need to provide for your family and do well and do all these things. And this puts you in your 9 to 5 locked corporate job. Nothing wrong with that. I work that. I love it. It's great. Totally fine. But I also do things on the side because I'm like, I'm not going to leave anything on the table. I wake up at like 4:45, 5 in the morning, 4:30 if I go to the gym, and then I go to bed at like 10 o'clock at night. And I am trying to maximize every single moment in there between leveraging, writing books, helping other people solve problems, working my 9 to 5 to pay the bills, and everything in between. The thing that will distract you from becoming what all that you can be is the pursuit of self pleasure. Granted, self pleasure is definitely something that's amazing. That's like go kick back and have some beers with some friends, or just go play pool, go play field hockey. That was a weird analogy. Go do something with your life. Enjoy self pleasure. Go to the baseball games, go to the sports stadiums, go to the concerts, go out to eat, go enjoy your life. But the problem is, in America especially, is we've turned it into a lifestyle of self pleasure. You sit on the couch, you pour your wine, you pull your beer, you watch Netflix. Every single night, you're going to the movie theater and you're going out to drink or out to eat. You like baked yourself a homemade pizza or something in your living room. And you expect to do that every single day and have something to show for it with your life? I hate to say it's never going to happen. Okay, deep breath. Because I've learned, and here's another example. So as I've learned, because I wrote the book after I bought a computer. So let's go let's tie this into like a story for you guys. So I do a fantasy football league, and actually I'm not in this league anymore, but I did it for several years. I won often. So if we're on the people in that league and you're listening to this, you know exactly who it is. And yes, I'm better than you. And so I won 2 of the 5 years I was in, and that's a really good success rate. But anyway, you get money from the winnings. And so right around this time, I was like, okay, I should probably write a book. So I was actually writing the book on my phone to start. So that was like the first few months. So I did pencil and paper, did all that work, and then I was like, cool, now I got to start putting a document. So I started working on my phone for like a couple months. And then I was doing the fantasy football, and I'm like, wow, I might win. And I was like, you know what I need to do? If I win, I need to take these earnings and buy an asset that will help me produce more. And I was like, you know what I do? I'm going to buy a new computer. All right. So I'm going through the league, kicking butt, and then I win the trophy, I win the league, I get my payout, I got my earnings. So now I got my like $500 or whatever, and I'm like, cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my life and what God has put on my heart to do, and which is in this time and season is to write a book. But what else can I do? Let me look at getting like leveraging now assets so that this $500 can turn into something that actually makes more money or can make more of a life. So I went and bought a computer. So I bought the computer, and that is how I started. That's how I published the book. Is I wrote on the computer, I published the book, editing everything on the computer, the website, everything. Look, now I'm even shooting like a podcast that stemmed from the book. But you see what kind of happened there is I took baby steps to get away from like, hey, how can I take this $500 of self-pleasure money and turn it into $500 of self-improvement or accomplishing that goal. And so the motivation all came from I had a moment of realization of I want to become who God has put me out here on earth to do. And in order to do that, I need to start accumulating assets that can start helping spread the message or make the message spread easier of what God has put in my heart to do. And so part of that is telling people like this on this podcast about how to get over themselves and or how to live a different life, how to follow Jesus practically, how to discipleship, like whatever you want to say I do in this podcast. I would say we just teach people how to practically follow Jesus. And so that's one piece, and the other piece is I use this computer to right now I'm really getting into the AI space, and I'm teaching and helping a lot of people implement AI. And that's like been a game changer too, of just like, wow, I can serve people by understanding technology in a new way, but now I have this computer to do that. So the amount of money that I have generated from the $500 investment into my computer is tenfold. At least, because I had this computer for a few years and I made money from the book. I made money from, I'm not making money on YouTube or social platforms yet. But I made money doing IT consulting, AI stuff, and I'm just like, I'm making money with this $500 computer. So this computer has more than paid for itself. But where did the motivation come to change to say, hey, I should buy a $500 computer? Where did the motivation come from to say, let me write a book? Where did the motivation come from to say I should do IT consulting? Because looking at my gifts and talents that I have, I was like, hey, well, skills pay bills, and so God, where can I serve people with my skills? And you notice, I said this already, but the if you don't understand who you are, you're never gonna understand where you can go. And that's just biblical. You know, if you don't understand that you're God, that God made you and God put things inside of you, it may not lead to a lot of money. I think it honestly, like it will lead to what you need to take care of yourself. And there's a life of abundance out there that God will just start like, like accumulating around you. Cause if you're walking in your calling and you're walking in what God has put on your heart to do, like why would he not take you to everyone that like you can impact? And your wealth might look like you have so many relationships that you don't even need money because people are just taking care of you. Like, what if you're a missionary and you just start developing all these different like relationships that honestly your net worth is zero, but you are so rich in the fact that you are just so well taken care of by your community and your relationships, and that is richness. There's also the richness of like financial gain of like, wow, you are a really good businessman and you leaned into the fact that God gave you a mind differently about business, and now you curate millions and millions of dollars. Honestly, you give a lot away, you're philanthropic, you do a lot of things for it, you serve and love all the people around you, and the people around you are so deeply impacted. One of my favorite stories I heard is this guy who runs a meat company, and he wanted to be a pastor. So he set out to be a pastor, and when he set out to be a pastor of this church, things are just were going average pastor life, you know. And then there's one moment that he, for some reason, he had a connection to like selling meat out of the trunk of his car. I forget this guy's name. Otherwise, I'd totally tell you his name. I'm not trying to be secretive, but he was selling meat out of the trunk of his car, and next thing you know, he felt like God told him to run a beat business and stop being a pastor. And he's like, okay, well, I always wanted to do ministry and everything, so let me do that. And so his motivation was, I want to tell people about Jesus. And so that's why I want to be a pastor. But then God said, hey, actually, I have something else in mind for you. And so then he started his meat business. And then in a few years, it has blown up. And now it's like a multi million, uh, maybe hundreds of millions by now, meat business. And the thing that he mentioned, which is incredible, and I love this, is he has done more ministry. He has been able to tell more people about Jesus through his meat business than he probably ever would being a pastor. Because that pastor only gets people that come in and out from that church. He's meeting people high level, low level, everywhere in between. And he has been able to do more ministry through walking in his calling of God has put me here on earth to be, honestly, I think a business guy. I don't think like just maybe knowing meat, you know? um, but isn't that fascinating? So what if we had so many more Christians step out and say like, you know what? God has called me to go into the world to make disciples and to do ministry that way. And honestly, sure, church is a great place to do it. Leading a church, leading a nonprofit, leading an organization. Like, yes, there are God, I think definitely calls people to do that for sure. But I think the majority of us, where is your, let's go back to this, your motivation? Where's your understanding of who God made you, and where can you step out in faith and start saying, I'm going to take my $500 and I'm going to start somewhere? So for me, like, yeah, I'm getting now into like AI, like building and consulting and systems work. And it's fantastic. And I absolutely love it. And it's been really just, it's very interesting because I set out to write the book and write more books and really produce this podcast and grow a ministry. And then I felt like I had a moment of like a few years, not a few months ago, where I was like, okay, God, like I'm tired of like IT and technology and stuff. But if that's where you want me to go, I'll do it. Kind of like the meat guy in the truck. And ever since then, the opportunities that have been appearing and that have been just guiding me in the way of AI specifically. Because like even like IT's broad, but I'm just like, let's just do AI. It's new. It has just been phenomenal, that track. And I'm just like, God, maybe this is what you have for me. And so I'm going to continue teaching people about life and following Jesus on Revived. And if you put on my heart to write another book, I'll write another book. I kind of have one going, but like clicking the brakes on that one because it's really following this other trend that I have, not trend, um this open door. And so I realized that God has given me the skill of understanding technology and systems in a way that I just think is normal. Turns out it's not normal. Like I view things in such a logistical, like, how can we accomplish this? And I just, the way I understand the technology and everything, I'm like, this is the lane I'm supposed to be in. Like I said no to people and I have said yes to other people and like just following the motivation of I know that I'm here on this earth to just teach people about Jesus, and how best am I going to do that? Well, we'll have God decide because He's the one that made me. And so I picked up the book and I said yes to writing the book. I picked up the podcast and I was running this podcast as if this is where I'm going to do that. But I think my true lane is in the skills that I've acquired through just the understanding of technology. And when I'm working with AI, is ever since I was little, one of the ways I was described as I work the hardest at being lazy. And I wouldn't say it's like I'm being lazy because like whatever, but I work the hardest at finding the system that circumvents the system. And now that's like AI 101 is how can you leverage the tools in front of you to maximize the solving the problem or achieving the goal that you want. And I'm like, this is the lane. I'm like, I was literally in the shower the other day. I'm like, God, like you knew that AI would be coming in my lifetime to where it is now. And you knew that when I was born and you designed me to like be so frustrated with like learning code and stuff, but there always something about computers that was like always like, wow, there's something about this. And now I was like, but I lived for such a long time. I'm just like, it's just not clicking. I don't get how that guy can just understand like those codes and doing those things and all that stuff. And man, uh, I was just really frustrated and just like, why am I here? Then this AI age is happening, and I'm like, I understand this. So sometimes, like, your motivation needs to start with God made me, and my passion in my heart is to do this. And do not look at it from money will take care of you. Look at it, God will take care of you. Because if He's put it in your heart to do it, figure out how to start doing it. It might be, you might be really into, let's say, art. You might not make a lot of money producing art, but you might make a lot of money or well-being or something that God has for you teaching art. Got to think outside the box. Think outside your lane. All right. If you're really passionate about something like teaching and you're just like, well, I don't want to leave the classroom, but I also want to like level up and start applying on my own. Start a YouTube channel. Do something different. Start a podcast. Like you have so much inside of you that if it's not a practical service, it's something else that you can do. Start with just sharing your words and your story on YouTube. And then eventually you will have some other opportunities in front of you. Okay. So we kind of did a lot today. Let me just circle back. So motivation. What is the motivation? Figure out, like, learn that God has given you this life and you need to understand that you were made with like a very specific way with specific passions. And if you leverage the ultimate goal of God, how can I align? We talked about this a few weeks ago. God, how can I align my will with your will? And if you can align your life like that with understanding what God's will is and just like, God, how can I submit to your will with my life, regardless if it's what I want to do, there's going to be some part of you where the passion and the will are going to line up. And I just know this to be true because you just see this in other people's stories. Go look at others, not just mine. And so that's where the motivation starts, is understand who you are. Okay. The next piece is get over the problem. Get over the problem of sitting on your butt, doing nothing, self pleasure every single freaking day. Save it for the weekend. Work hard for 5, 6 days a week. What's wrong with that? Give quality time to your relationships. Don't sacrifice those. I write this in my book. It's chapter 6 or 7, I believe, about like the order of relationships, especially if you're a dad. It really just tells you how to prioritize your relationships while like just going all out for who God made you to be. Because you're not just made to just be a dad, to just be a husband, to just be a worker. You're meant to do all those things. Everything is in your wheelhouse. Yes, there's times where certain aspects might require more of your time than others. But at the end of the day, you have to prioritize like what God says is truly important to prioritize and to walk in that. And that's wisdom. So starting to read through Proverbs, and wisdom is described as a lady yelling out the gate, like, hey, come and get me. Like, I'm over here, come listen. But no one does. So ask God for wisdom about what to do with, like, how to overcome the problem of self pleasure in your life. And then let's move into this. Where can you, I hinted on this like a little bit, like where can you now rethink and like take that pleasure and turn it into an asset? Like where can you stop playing a game? Where can you stop binge watching TV and just take 10 minutes to do something? Go find a new client, find a new customer, think about a podcast you can produce, take 10, 20 minutes to sit down. I literally, my podcast episodes are 20 minutes, okay? About 20, 25 minutes. This one's apparently going to go a little long, but it takes me a half hour every single week that I shoot a podcast to shoot the podcast. And that's half hour out of a whole 7 days. And so you telling me you can't do that either? It's like, oh, okay, Steven, well, I don't have enough money to get all the things I need to do it. Well, then where can you start? Don't make excuses. Get off your butt and start doing something. You will never become something by sitting on your butt. And you'll never become something if you don't understand who God made you to be. Because God has put something uniquely inside of you, and you need to lean into that and tap into it. And don't let other people say it doesn't produce money, it doesn't produce change, it doesn't produce whatever other people's opinions are. Whose opinion matters? Others or God? Does everybody have knowledge? Everybody has knowledge. Not everybody has wisdom. Because as I learned in Proverbs, she yells at the gate. Not many people come to answer her. So don't let older people, especially like that have, there's definitely some older people who have a lot of wisdom. 100%. I definitely agree. But all older people do not speak wisdom. And that is key. So just because they're older and they've seen a lot, and if what they're telling you doesn't line up with what God's telling you, then that's something to pay close attention to. And don't ever let somebody stop you from walking in your calling. So hopefully that enough right there is motivating. And so this podcast episode is all about motivation. Anyway, I feel like I just kind of just rambled a lot. That's okay. That's what we do here. And I think hopefully you enjoyed this episode and learned something new. But the challenge for the week is this: get motivated, understand who you are and who God made you to be, and start leaning into that. Overcome the problem of find 3 days this week to cut down on self pleasure. Okay, either don't drink that night, don't spend an extra half hour watching that TV show, and replace it with something that will grow you or that you can take and apply and serve somebody out there with. That's the best way to think about it. Like, oh, what can I do? Think about what you're passionate about and how you can serve somebody. And that every single time you do that, you will find your business. Okay. And then the last piece is get an asset. Figure out some way to save up some money, win a fantasy football league. I don't know, do something. Take that, repurpose it, and then start moving. 10 minutes a day. It's amazing how far you'll go in a few years. Like that's where I'm at. That's where others are. And I'm way behind on this journey. But I want to tie this into faith. I'm just like, it's not just an entrepreneur thing. It's not just a business person thing. It's how do you walk in faith, accomplishing what God has set you out to accomplish? And that's the journey I'm on. And I hope that's the journey that you can be on too. So this should motivate you to think outside the box, to think differently, and to grow. And if it doesn't, well, you can enjoy sitting on the couch, watching Netflix every night, living a normal life. So if that's what you want, you go for it. That's not the life I want. And I don't want to walk into heaven leaving anything that's like, wow, I wish I did something, just one little thing extra different. Like, no, I'm going to leave blood, sweat, and tears on the field 6 days a week because the Sabbath is for rest and I do not work on the Sabbath. But I'm going to leave it all on the field. And I'm not going to get to heaven saying, God, I wish I did something different. And I'm obviously going to have regret about like, oh, I could have done more. But you know what? Do the most you can with what you have. But the goal is to, how can you just pray every single day? God, help me become who you have put me here on earth to be and to serve the people that you have put before me to serve. I've quoted that a lot, and I hope it brings you motivation and joy. All right. Thanks for joining us today on the Revive Podcast. Look forward to talking to you next time. Maybe I'll get some pictures up I don't know. It's a cool looking studio though. Appreciate you guys. Take care. Bye.